Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is 2024 on the ancient moon calendar. It is October the 27th. October is the 8th month. Octo means 8. It's 2025 on the ancient sun calendar, 10,066 on the ancient Yoruba calendar, and it's millions and millions and millions and millions and trillions of years on our original calendar. Our original calendar actually is outside of time because we've always been here and we've always existed. There never was a time when we were not. And that comes from our ancient holy writings, to include the Circle 7, Holy Quran 4, the Moorish Holy Temple for Science. With that being stated, all rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity and in alignment and according to the ancient Noahide laws as stated by this Holy Congress. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3, Moorish American, Al-Moroccan, Universal Court Action. We are the sovereign living justices and Ego Sum, Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. All are in capitis diminution nolo in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are capit et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal, natural living head and body for our empire. All Moors are the original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites, Shemites, Israelites, Cushites, and Hittites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate. We're the Earthwide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. We are also all of the ancient, original, indigenous nations, states, tribes, and clans earthwide, regardless of what they call themselves. They are one with us. Today, we are being the law by our sovereign status, which is the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient, Article 3 living, United States District for Columbia Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, trustees, divine ministers, possessors, grantors, grantors, and title trustors for all causes for action. We are peace, we are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our sovereign divine ascension. We do possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are not at war, and we demonstrate all eternal, ancient, original, sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. So the first statement that we will to make, just so that everyone is clear about who we are and what we do and why we're here, we are, just so that you all are aware, we are the 1%. Okay? We always have been and always will be. We are the remnant. We are the wealthy nobility at earth. Always have been, always will be. That will not change. It doesn't change. Even in our sleep, in the enactment, just one moment. Even in the enactment, in our sleep, we We were still the law. We were still the government. We've always been that. There is no government beside us, by the way. So with that being stated, here, let me clear the meeting here. Just one moment. Just a moment. So there are some things being put in the chat that we didn't put in the chat. Just ignore them, and we'll be sure to remove that portion. Indeed. So this week, I was speaking with one of the empresses who had a court action this week. And I was clarifying what goes on when we have court actions or anything that we have. We are the remnant. But let me say this. If you announce a court action or you put anything on the public record and you're expecting Moors to attend to support you, all well and good, because Moors will attend court actions and things. But know this, that we must govern whether there's a crowd watching or not. It doesn't matter how many people, and this is for everyone, because we will to manage expectation. Even when no one is looking, we have to govern our estate. The majority of what we do is not put on YouTube or social media or whatever, because it's just too much. It's too much. There would have to be 24/7 cameras rolling to see all the things that we do. So if you're doing things and maybe you invite people to come or whatever the case may be, and they don't come, don't let that bother you at all. You still have to do it. Because, see, here's the thing. When we first started doing court actions, we were the only one doing court actions on YouTube from our courts. Everyone else, for the most part, felt like they had to gather 12 people or 9 people, a jury of their peers and all of that. We're sovereign. Now, all of the court actions that we did were witnessed by others, but that might have been afterwards on video. It's nunc pro tunc, so it's now for then anyway. Our rulings and our justice and our judgment is now for then anyway. So just get into the habit of knowing that Your estate is yours to govern, whether people see it or not, whether you have a big crowd supporting you or not. You still have to govern your estate, or else someone else will do it. Even now, we're governing estates for those who are asleep, for those who are not competent to do so. That's why we say all Moors, because we already know not everyone is competent, not everyone is awake, not everyone is speaking. Okay? So we just continue moving forward. As they wake up, they'll claim their estates. As Moors wake up, they'll claim their estates. So we're not concerned about that. Our concern is ensuring that you know that as you stand, you are sovereign. Sovereign is sovereign whether there's a crowd or not, because a sovereign really does not need a crowd. A sovereign doesn't need a crowd. A sovereign doesn't need anyone else at all. One sovereign can govern the whole earth. That's why they tell the stories of quote unquote Adam and Lilith and Eve and all of that, because that's just to let you know that it only takes one sovereign. However, because there are so many of us that have come together, and when I say so many, I mean 30 or 40 or 50, because think about it. How many people or persons signed the quote-unquote Constitution? It was less than 100. It was less than 50. But everyone had to live by that because they didn't speak. No one rebutted it. They said, okay, well, they said that that's the law, so it's the law. You'd be surprised at how many people still do that. They still do that. They've not awakened enough to begin governing the way that we've been governing for 7 years. And even more than that, when we think about our teachers, and even from ancient times, we've been governing. We've always been the government. There never was a time when we were not the government. So, crowd or not, audience or not, you have to know that the ancestors are supporting you. Everything that we did, there was no manual or playbook for our government. We just did it by the Spirit. And here we are, governing all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We didn't have anything that we could look at and say, oh, this is how you govern as sovereigns for all of Earth. So we wrote it. So we're writing how to do that, all of us. So, and we're grateful for that. We're grateful for the Constitution to do that. We're grateful that the ancestors have given each and every one of us guts to do it, to lead the way in the processes, and keep moving. There is so much that we have complete control over, which is everything really. And now we're just putting the processes in place to access those things. Someone had to do it. Might as well be us, right? Yes? Yeah. So we're grateful. We're grateful. With that being stated, if you go back and look at some of the court actions that we did on YouTube, you will see that it was just us. You'll see just us doing court actions And in some of the court actions, you won't hear anyone else. It will be just us doing court. There may or may not have been other witnesses, but the fact that people look at that they are the witnesses. So as many views as you've seen, those are the people who have witnessed what we've done. So with that being stated, are there any questions?
Islam.
Comments, wisdom from the Congress regarding all the things that we do?
Islam, can you hear me?
Islam Empress.
Yes, I have a question, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
So with us being the 1%, do you think that we are the 144,000?
I know that to be true.
Okay. Islam.
And Empress, listen, that's out of 8 billion people. Out of 8 billion, soon to approach 9 billion people.
Wow. I'm just nearly.
Oh, yeah.
Who wrote the book on that? Who wrote the book?
That's Pauline, where I used to.
We wrote the book.
We had to write it.
We wrote the book.
And we're continuing.
Yeah, you wrote the fucking book, bitch.
We're in the process of continuing to write the records and the book. That's why we put everything on the public record. That's why we put everything on the public record.
You know what? I'm looking at all of those, and I apologize. But I'm looking at all those.
Why did Aisha get evicted?
I'm looking at all those years that I studied the Bible.
Yes.
And that I was in church.
Mm-hmm.
And how I poured my heart.
Yes.
Not really realizing that this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. And now I'm making the connection, and it is just so fabulous to see this at this time.
Yes.
This is such a very important, and I don't like to use the word awesome, but this is such a time as this, that now it is all coming together. That
it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, now you see now what all of that was about, who it was talking about, those children of Israel in the Bible. That's you. They were talking about you. And I always thought it was somebody of long ago, and those people don't even exist anymore. And I start putting all this together and just awakening and reawakening and all of that, and I'm like, and guess what? We still here.
And we're not children anymore. We're
not children.
Full-grown heirs.
But, you know, I thought those people were gone. No, we're still here.
Yes. Haven't gone anywhere. Right here on our land.
Oh, this is such a beautiful time.
I love it.
Just as crazy as I thought, Iman.
I absolutely love it.
Islam, I yield.
Thank you, Empress. Yes. All of that was for us to see, to know, and then to be. When we intend a thing, our command is be, and it is. Our ancestors put the information out there and then said, okay, let's birth them and see what they do. And here we are, governing, doing exactly what we were born to do. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I will, and again, some say the revolution will not be televised and all of that. This is not for everyone in the way that it is for us. It is for everyone, but at different levels. Some will hear the information and they'll get a few, it will awaken a few things in them. Others will get it and will never stop growing and knowing and stating and writing the law and demonstrating. So it is a beautiful thing, and for that we're grateful. We're grateful. See, the test that we have all been conquering, it was just to show us who we are. It was just to show us how strong we are and who we really are. So let us continue moving forward. We put some things on the public record. We said, okay, now that we're here, we don't need no one needs to pretend to be us. We don't need substitutes. We don't need abbreviations. We don't need actors. We don't need any of that. We're here. We're stating who we are. We're awake. We know who we are. And let's keep moving forward. So we said, okay, we are Congress. We're the people, first and foremost. So anything that talks about the people, we say it first, and then it's talking about us, not something written by somebody else. So those aren't real people. And then we begin to govern as the people. And then we say, okay, the people come together and we are Congress. The people come together and we are the Moorish National Republic, federal government, or any of the other governments. We say original indigenous governments because there are no governments besides us. Or we say we are whoever we will to be. We're the presidents, we're the currency controllers, we're the justices, the chief justices of all, we're the chief executive officers, we're all of that. We are the land, we are all natural resources, we are all commerce. We're the money, we're the gold, we're the authority, we're the law, we're the government, all of that. And as
only in your fantasy land, bullshit, you're
the cheering squad is here. And so as we've done those things, as we've placed the law on the public record, we can see now that every word that we stated, every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God has manifested and is manifesting. So we were showing the evacuations, that's what we call them, the evacuations that have happened, that have taken place in the funny mirror, because they really weren't here to begin with. But there were some actors acting, and so we've been demonstrating the evacuations. We call them evacuations, which is a combination of evacuations and evictions. It is eviction by evacuation, which means more is that we don't have to go somewhere and we don't have to go kicking in doors and putting people out. At our word, they will leave. And when I say they, persons will leave at our word. So if it's a domicile that you're looking at, or if it's a, whatever it is, speak the word, put the word on the public record, and the Spirit will tell you when to go to that place and to demonstrate your presence there. Those who are there will leave when it's time for them to leave. and you won't have to do a thing but speak the word. And we can see that happening all over the place. The enactments of movement. It resembles those enactments known as the Trail of Tears and those migrations across the land and things of that nature. That's what it resembles. I wondered previously, how did our ancestors get us to move from place to place? They just had things happen to move us so that we would claim the land. Every place our foot walks is ours. That's in the ancient records. Every place that we place our feet is ours. And so the only way for them to get us to get up and go claim it and go walk there, put your feet on the ground, is they had things happen. Okay. And in the process, we were put all over the earth. There never was a place that we've not been first. Every place that exists, we created it and then we inhabit it. It's kind of like a womb. We all come from a womb, and then we have a womb. So we're creating from the same place we came from. It's a beautiful science, very beautiful science. Our ancestors know what they're doing through us. They know what they're doing. And so as you can see, and I'll just put a link to, I don't want to open that. I will to put the link in the chat. And this is just, this is their way of saying that they're doing as we've commanded.
Bullshit. Nobody does as you command. Bullshit.
Watch this, Morris. Be quiet. Be quiet. There it is. Wow, a command. Islam. So we'll put the link to this evacuation in the chat. And as I was looking at this particular evacuation, I realized that it happened a long time ago, where the actors evacuated and evacuated. It happened a long time ago, years ago. And so our ancestors are not, there's nothing that catches us by surprise. Okay. Now, as we're looking at the places where government happens, which is here, which is wherever we are, we're starting to see, you can always tell who knows what and who's in charge by looking at behaviors and actions. When we thought that we were Negro, Black, colored, and African American, what were we doing? Whenever something happened, we were out in the streets marching and praying. Now, are we saying there's anything wrong with marching and praying? No. If that's what persons and people will to do, okay. If you will to march and pray, that's fine. But what marching and praying in massive numbers indicate is that someone is looking to be heard by government. They get out in the streets because they want the government to hear them. When we didn't know that we were the government, we were out in the streets marching and praying and doing all these things and singing and, you know, crying and begging and holding up signs and rioting and things like that. Riots are a sign of people or persons who feel like they haven't been heard. But if you notice, who is it that's marching these days? Because it's not us. We're not out in the streets marching. We're the government. We're governing. And those that are out there, are appealing to us for certain things, such as rights and liberties and privileges and benefits and protection. Okay? And, you know, it is our job to speak to those things, which is what we're doing. I pulled up on the internet the number of marches that have been going on. Can you all see on the screen the different marches that have been going on? Gender Liberation March, March on Washington for Gaza, Women's March on Washington, Free Her March and Rally, March on Washington for Film Festival, Women's March on Washington, National March for Life in Washington, D.C., activist marching, what else? Protests and things, thousands of crime survivors march on Washington.
A bunch of ghetto-ass Negroes that don't know shit.
And so, and so, because we're not out there, that means we're busy doing some other things, like governing. Okay? Those that are in the chat, if you would, please, mind your nobility as well in the chat, please, so that we don't have to do it for you. Islam. So our job is to continue doing exactly what we're doing because it's having the effect that it should have, which is to notify everyone that we're the government, we're the law, and all resources come through us. Okay? So there was recently the quote-unquote Christians recently had what they called a Million Women's March on Washington. And I think they probably had about 100,000 to show up, maybe. We don't know what the numbers were in their enactment. My point being, there was a time when all of the marching and praying was being done by those that look like us, that were calling themselves Negro, Black, Colored, and African American. Marching, praying, singing, all of that. That just tells me that other methodologies that those who are marching now previously used are no longer working. And that's my point. Because, see, before they were using a system, quote unquote, and doing things, and they didn't have to ask for permission from the government. They just did it. So why march when you're getting everything you want? They didn't have to march. That tells me that the system that they were using previously to obtain all of that wealth, quote unquote, because we know it was debt, all of the what looked like wealth and all that looked like, their ability to just, if things didn't go their way, what did they do? Hire a lawyer, quote unquote. But that's not working anymore, which means that the things that we're doing are doing what they should be doing, because quote unquote attorneys and lawyers that they were hiring in their enactment were from another place, not from here. So consequently, when they were pretending to be whoever they were pretending to be, there were more of us in our sleep, locked away in jails and prisons, because no consuls and justices and judges were speaking. It was only actors speaking in their enactment. But now that we are speaking, when you go to those places, it's the opposite of what it was before.
Thank God you bitches are too old to have.
It's reality now. Real life has manifested. Why? Because the real people are here. So we don't glory in the suffering of anyone. However, we know that we're the key to this vast estate. We are the keys to the vast estate. Always have been, always will be. We must govern. We must. And that we are doing. Again, marching is for those who feel like they need to be heard. We're not black, so why would we be out at a Black Lives Matter march? We wouldn't. We would continue writing the law and accessing the estate, because we have to do it first before anyone else can be free. We had to do it first. We had to free ourselves first. We've done that. So we're going to keep moving forward. And I'll say this, matriarchs, let me speak to you briefly before we move to our next topic. The matriarch, and I'll speak to matriarchs in particular who've been through the test. You were tested so thoroughly. Some might say, "Oh, that was a hard test." It was a thorough test, because you lead the way. There is no one that exists who did not either come from your womb or your laboratory. No thing and no one. So it is 100% important that you know that the test came just to show you your power, to show you your power, to show you that you are all powerful. All powerful. So don't let the test stop you. Keep going. No matter what the outcome, you must keep moving. You must keep moving. If you have to stop and take a break and take a rest sometimes, go ahead and stop and take a break, take a rest. And then once you've gotten your breath back, keep moving. It's important. In our previous Congress, we talked about, we stated that we were going to take a quick look at the difference between citizenship and naturalization. Does anyone will to state the difference between citizenship and naturalization? Or look it up and give us a definition of both, of one or the other. And you can star 6 to speak.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
I would say that from the research that I've done, citizenship is the status of being recognized as a member of a country, whereas naturalization is the process to become a citizen of a country.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to explain that. Islam. Thank you, Empress, for your research.
Islam.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
Islam. Naturalization is the process at which a Moorish American national gives a subject our nature through the naturalization process to which that we've put together, where a subject will state on all white paper, flawless paper, without spot or blemish, that they are a subject for the living, lawful United States. And so that's our process. And they will give us gold or silver to get our ID.
Yes.
That we issue.
Yes.
Islam.
Islam. Islam. Indeed.
Islam.
Islam.
Yes, this is K. Mahadel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania territory. I would say citizens would be those who've since the Congress adjourned Senior D, and the people who took over the Republic considered themselves citizens. Everyone else they considered naturalized. They put us in a naturalization according to the 14th Amendment. Everybody who was naturalized, even us, that they called came from Africa, they assumed that we were naturalized, and we became 14th Amendment citizens. But both of them, they're not real citizens according to the Constitution of the Republic. Islam. I yield.
So we'll add some clarity to what you stated. We won't outright disagree. We'll add some clarity to it. Islam. Empress.
Oh, okay. I looked in Blackboard this naturalization, act of adopting a foreigner and clothing him with privileges of native, which is really.
Can you speak up just a little louder, Empress?
Okay, let me see.
Is this better?
Much better. Yes. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. All right. So let me read. Shall I read it again?
Yes, Empress, please.
Okay, naturalization, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1178. The act of adopting a foreigner and clothing him with the privileges of native citizen. So that's naturalization. Now, in the funny mirror, the naturalization was actually taking natural living people and clothing them in the fiction, which was actually making them 14th Amendment, stateless people. Now, there's a citizen. If you're a citizen of the land, it's very different from being a citizen of a corporation.
Yes.
Let me look up citizen. Well, it doesn't actually have citizenship, but citizen, and the definition in Black's Law, again, dictionary, 4th edition, page 310, a member of a free city or jural society, civitas, possessing all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed by any person under its constitution and government, and subject to the corresponding duties.
Yes.
So there's a big difference, but I know I'm not answering fully the question, but I also recognize that in the formula we have citizens with capital C's, little c's, and so there was a lot of confusion in the midst there. But a citizen is a natural citizen if they're citizens of the land. That's the living people.
Yes.
But if you don't make that distinction, the naturalization was making people, or at least in the funny mirror, making people citizens of a fiction or a corporation, thus denationalizing. Because if in the definition of naturalization it said it gave them the right of the privilege, which actually as a native, as a citizen of the land, you have rights, not privileges. But it gave them the privileges of native citizen.
Yes.
I yield now.
Yes. In a way, we can, and you're right, Empress, to clarify the difference between a corporate, quote unquote, citizen and a citizen for the land.
For the land, exactly.
There is a difference. The citizens for the land are outside of their citizenship is outside of any corporation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why they have rights, not privileges. Rights.
Correct. The Constitution they govern the Constitution and use it to move their person around and do things with their person.
If I may, so there is that distinction between a natural person,
yes,
and the citizen person, or the corporate, the corp.
Yes. Yes. So naturalization is done by the government, where we say to the foreigners, you can be a citizen. But when we say it to foreigners, and this is going to sound controversial and divisive, but it's really unifying. When we say to the foreigners, you have citizenship, we are actually giving them citizenship to come here and work and exercise privileges based on the work. Our person, so my person has a name. The name of my person that I own is Pauline Ritchie. She is a natural person. She is a citizen for the land. She's never been a citizen of a corporation at all, ever. She's a land citizen. And that is why the supreme law for the land applies to her. I'm the one who applies it to her. Just like you all apply the supreme law for the land for your citizen that you own, whose name sounds a lot like the sovereign-born appellation that your mother gave you and that my mother gave me. So citizenship is then placed upon someone who is foreign by way of the process of naturalization, but it must be clarified, and this is why a nationality card and a driver's license that we create comes together and is so powerful. It's proof that we're on the land and not out. We're not offshore citizens. Our citizenship is on the land for our person. We're the people, and then we have persons that we use, that we use for contracting and for making agreements and for doing commerce and things of that nature, and mercantilism and so on and so forth. So there are some who have come here and they don't like the term immigrant. They're saying they don't want to be called an immigrant. They want to be called a settler because they're not going back where they came from. Well, that's up to us. That's not up to anyone else. That's up to us. We have stated that a particular type of corpse, anything dead, has to go back where it came from. Anything dead. And then we govern all living. We govern dead too by telling dead that dead is dead, by calling it dead. And then we govern the living. So therein, in the definition of the words, therein lies the difference in citizenship and naturalization. That's it. That's the difference. So now let's take a look, move on to our next topic, because this topic is the topic for the day, for this day. The topic is regarding wire transfers, wire remittances, and our treasury, and being able to wire funds and all of that. Has anyone here, and this is a question to just think about and respond if you will, has anyone here ever done a wire transfer using Dollarium, gold, or silver? Has anyone ever done a wire remittance?
Islam Empress, can you please unlock the meeting?
Sure.
Islam Empress, yes, we have.
Oh, you're cheating because I think I told you about this earlier. So All right.
Well, answer yes.
The answer is yes. Empress Sabra put yes by email. That's a good one, Empress Sabra. That's good. Yes, Empress Angel, that's good. You know, we did. We've been doing wire transfers the whole time using Dollarium. Moorish Sovereign Dollarium Gold Receipt. All we've ever done with it is wire transfers. So now yes, Islam nobility. Justice Kansu, Islam. So let me ask you this question, because I had to ask as I was doing the research on this, because the ancestors are really just having us to look back at what we've done over the last 7 years or more, which when we say or more, we're talking about things those that we've learned from, those that we've gotten our erudition from, because they've been doing the work long before we woke up. But for us, it's been 7 years. The ancestors are having us to look back at the laws and things that we put on the public record and the processes that we put on the public record. And they're saying, okay, now let us show you that you are the heirs and that you are the owners and the government for all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. So I have a question for this Congress. I just love our ancestors because they just know what they're doing. My question is, why is it that when someone sends something through the mail that is quote unquote illegal, why are they charged with wire fraud? Why? So let's just say, for example, when counterfeiters send counterfeit things through the mail, they're always charged with wire fraud. Always charged with wire fraud.
Islam. Would that be the lack of ability to track that type of transfer? Because if you have an email, then you can actually track how much, to whom, what time, etc. You have all the information in an email. But if you send it via U.S. mail, then all you have, if they send it with a certified receipt, then that's about all you have. So you can't really track it. But if they somehow find out, then maybe that's where, and I'm just kind of like guessing with kind of how this process works. Islam.
Islam Empress.
Islam.
Empress.
When I hear wire, I think about currency. I think about currents. Yeah. And so, and in the previous era, it was thought that fiat or Federal Reserve notes was currency. Mm-hmm. So that's my thought.
Yo, shit don't work.
That's a really good, that's a good foundational thought for the answer to the question. Someone in the chat put that things move about an axis. That's good.
Ask Pauline about her Land Rover. Ask Pauline about her Land.
So,
Islam Empress.
Does it have something to do with the fact that the mail, the post office, is a bank?
Oh, that's
why isn't this working?
It is indeed. It is indeed. It is indeed a bank.
And then the bank,
Yes.
the type of currency, as Empress just stated, going through must not be counterfeit, and the bank does not actually belong. The bank is the government, so if you're not the government and you're sending counterfeit through the mail, it's about status and jurisdiction, and then the actual money or not money or count. So somewhere in the mid-divorce.
You're in the ballpark too. You're also in the ballpark, Empress. You're in the ballpark with that response.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
I just my thought process just going down. I was thinking the same thing as Empress Shasha, was that the post office is a bank, but it has to deal with legal tender. Is that? Uh-oh. Yeah, that sun was very bright.
It bothers some people who are a little bit technically savvy. It bothers them.
Yeah. So what I was, just to restate what I was saying, was my thought was that the post office is a bank and you're quote unquote depositing, but the species that it is not legal tender. So yes, it would be fraud. So that's just my thoughts. Islam.
Yes, that's very, very, that's a great one. That's close, very close. So
Islam, can you restate the question again for those who may not have processed yet?
The question was, why is it that when people send things through the mail that is not legal, as it were, that they get charged with wire fraud?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, you have it on the screen, though.
Yeah.
The answer.
Yes, but let's look at it a little more closely. See, we've been wiring money the whole time. Okay, we've been wiring money the whole time. The first money that we ever wired was $666 trillion, and that was about 5 years ago, to the Treasury, to put it on the public record. And I won't say to the Treasury because we're the Treasury. We wired it to the Treasury system. So let's look at this. Recently, and this is part of the beauty of hearing what the Spirit says and just doing it. Okay, doing what the Spirit says do. Recently, we put two videos, two 15-minute or so videos up on YouTube showing all of the, not all, not even half, showing many of the green return receipts that we had received back from sending out Dollarium and instruments and documents and affidavits and commands and laws. We showed all of those return receipts, for that which is the proof that things went back and forth in the mail. What were we really doing? Because right after we did those two videos, at the unction of the ancestors within us, we felt the dam break. In other words, just full access to the estate in the spirit realm and in the natural, actually. And I was looking at that energy and looking at it and thinking, I feel it, but explain it to me before I continue demonstrating that. Explain it to me. So what does the word wire even mean? Because, you know, in order to know what we've done, we have to define the words. This is the word wire. Look at 5 and 6. It's a telegraph, a telegram, a telegraph or a telegram. Of course, the definition talks about metal drawn around a thread and usually in a circular cross-section, wire netting or other wire work. So think network when you think wire, because that's what number 3 is saying, wire netting or other wire work, which means network. Anything made of wire or wire work, as a telephone cable, barbed wire fence, a snare, etc. And then telegraph, telegram. And then I saw some other things that came to mind. To pull wires from the wires used to operate puppets, it is to use private influence to achieve a purpose. Just think about that one for a minute. But our focus today is on telegraph and telegram, okay? Because we're going to prove to you that you've been doing wire transfers with Moorish Sovereign Dollarium the whole time. Through the bank, which is, we're the bank, and the post office is the banking system. So then it says a wire is a telegraph or a telegram. Let's look at those two words. Number 1 tells you the whole story. A telegraph originally is any signaling apparatus. That means if I wave at you, I'm giving you a signal. So I'm using my arm and my hand as a signaling apparatus. Number 2, an apparatus or system, because remember we said it's a system we've been talking to anyway. The United States Postal or Post Office is a system, including the Postal Service. So it is a system for transmitting messages. That we can stop right there. We've been sending telegraphs, telegrams, and wire transfers and wire transmittals and wire remittals the whole time, using our and that's why our government mailing process was so key and so vital and so important. That's why it was important not to use fiat, and if you used fiat to mail your things, you still had to do the demonstration, so don't feel bad about that. But as you continue to move and rise, know the government mailing process because you don't use fiat for that. So an apparatus or system for transmitting messages by electric impulses, and as you know, we are electrical beings, sent through a wire or converted into radio waves. Basically, it involves the use of a code of short and long signals called dots and dashes. Dots and dashes. Produced by the closing and opening of an electric circuit by means of a lever or a key. That could be writing also, because you know you write dots and dashes. But see, they say dots and dashes, we don't put dashes in our things, in our numbers. We don't put dashes in our numbers because it means something. So we look at different types of telegraphs: acoustic telegraph, an automatic telegraph. Now this one is important as well. An apparatus for transmitting a telegraph message automatically, a perforated fillet of paper being prepared and inserted in the transmitting apparatus, some form of registering apparatus receiving and recording the message sent. Think about a computer or an envelope, because see, an envelope is a transmitting apparatus. Did you know that an envelope is a transmitting apparatus?
Islam. I'm also hearing what I would say Moorish code and also Braille.
Yes. Yes. Telegrams and telegraphs are sent that way. Indeed. Some form of registering apparatus receiving and recording the message sent. That's the green certified return receipts and the green certified receipts that we attach to our mailings. So we've been sending wire transfers and wire remittances the entire time. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel in order to send wire transfers and wire remittances. And we don't really call it a transfer. It's a remittance. They say transmit because they keep wanting to change things. Trans means change. Transfer, transmit. We just refer and remit. It says other forms of automatic telegraph are in use as those in which the operation of keys resembling those of a typewriter record a message at a distant point. Indeed. So the message goes from our consciousness to our keyboard. Islam.
Yes, and my mother, who has had plenty of different, jobs and such, and careers and things. You mentioned typewriter, and I was already thinking about the paper that the old school typewriters used. And then you mentioned perforation dot papers, right? So I'll never forget, we used to go to Cannon upstate, and it was this old store. It was small, but anyway, she used to pick up boxes and boxes of paper, because back in them days, right, the paper was connected perforations.
Yes.
So you would just connect to the the typewriter, and you just be typing away, and page after page after page, and it was like a accordion, and then because they were all connected, so it was never ending. That part, and then also the sides were perforated as well, because they had those holes in them on either side, the left and the right side of the document paper. And so just put back some memories of, the old school ways of paperwork and how it was presented. And clearly it had a meaning, because you just read perforation in the document, the definition rather, of telegraph and such. But it's just interesting to remember that, and then to know that it has substantial meaning because the paper was made that way. And then when you also think about, the old school telegram, they would send that document, and you would have to peel off both sides to open. That's how they would seal it. It would be perforations
on both sides, and you would have to rip off both ends, and then you'd be able to open it.
And that's actually the same thing that we do when we apply the green return receipt, is we peel the one-sided tape off, and it's perforated, and they pull it off after it's signed and sent it back.
Right.
So we've been doing wire remittances the whole time. Islam nobility.
Pardon my intrusion. Could you please let Simone Miller in?
Sure. Islam. So we've had complete control over the system, the banking system, since time immemorial, but based on the actions and the liens and the levies and the bonds and things that we've been sending out since 2018, we've been in control of the banking system firsthand. We can do a wire remittance anytime, at any time. So, did you know there's such a thing as a chemical telegraph? It's a telegraphic apparatus in which the receiver records the signals on a sheet of chemically prepared paper. So it's still right back to paper. Okay, people want to make, sometimes, like I know when we first started doing liens, we had some that were saying, those liens don't mean nothing, it's just paper. Oh, now we know that it's all about the paper, isn't it? It's all about the paper. Because again, like we stated in our previous Congress, nothing happens until the paper comes first. Because see, the paper comes before anything else. Paper comes before the money. Paper comes before the guns, and we don't need guns because we got guns. Paper comes before any of that other stuff, militaries and all of that. Paper comes first. War rants and commands and all of that comes first. There has to be something put on paper. The law put on paper comes first. That's why the pen is mightier than the sword. And see, for us, our pen is a sword, just like our mouth is a sword. So,
Islam,
Empress.
I have a quick question, because I noticed that every now and then I'll receive a green receipt and there's no signature. So I'm, that it's been received, and and then when I go out to the website, the USPS website, to verify whether or not that document has been received, then there is nothing stating that the person or that document has actually been delivered, but I have the green receipt. No signature.
Does it have a stamp on it or anything?
Doesn't have a stamp.
So you're getting, okay. So then if you look at those, there's probably going to be a very thin orange what looks like a barcode at the bottom. On either side, there's going to be these lines.
Okay. Because I noticed. Oh, I see now.
See that?
No, there's orange lines at the bottom, but this one's signed with the orange. Okay. The ones that I see so far have been signed with this little orange things that's going, but I have one in front of me that has not been signed, but I have it back.
So then on either side, so if it doesn't have the orange lines on one side, if you turn it over, it's going to have a stamp in the upper right or upper left corner, or somewhere there.
I'll double check that. I don't see that either. Now, one of them I do have that is not signed, and it does have the orange, deal going on at the bottom. So that one is going on, but the other has, I don't see anything.
You don't see any black on either side?
On either side, I don't see nothing like something additional that's stating
a date, anything, nothing.
I'm looking. No, there's not a date, nothing.
What is on there? Is there a seal or anything?
There's not a seal. Because, see, I'm looking for something extra that's going to state that, okay, they actually have it through the, post office, and to show that, they recognized it and all of that, like what you're stating with that little orange writing or data that's letting me know it's been received and it's been issued. But this one has showing nothing, absolutely nothing.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying about it.
Okay.
What you're stating about what you have in your hand is that it looks the exact same way as it did when you sent it?
Yes.
On both sides?
On both sides.
Not even a single little...
No, there's nothing. There's nothing. And I know I had spoken to you earlier about the other situation, and because I have it as well, as though it's been delivered, and it went all the way to California and all that. It's just going through things. And but I have the green receipt, but no signature.
Okay. So
and there's nothing. There's no little orange, lines of anything to indicate that it went through the United States Post Office. Nothing. There's nothing there. I don't see any additional stamps, dates, nothing.
Okay.
There's nothing.
So you are the United States Post Office, so we know that it went through the post office.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, you sent it out and then that came back in the mail. Is that what you're stating?
Yes. That is what I'm stating.
Then it did what it was supposed to do.
Okay.
So you have a tracking number.
Right.
Okay. Because see, even if you didn't get the green thing back, you still have a tracking number.
Right. Exactly.
That's still a successful wire remittance.
Okay.
Still successful wire remittance because it traveled the route.
Right.
And came back. Your word will not return unto you void. It will accomplish all that you send it out to do.
Are you?
Islam.
I think he was going to go explain about what the orange lines meant. Can you, if you was, elaborate, please?
So the orange lines so let me go back to the commands we put on the public record. On the public record, we told them to stop pretending like they're the government, right? Everyone remember when we stated that the real government is here, don't pretend like you're the government. Well, those offices, there's no one there who is the government to sign for them. In many of those offices, there's not even a subject in the office of, it's completely automated. So it will go through the system and it will be, those orange lines will stamp it, and then it will come back. And that's the fact that it comes back to you is notification that yes, it's wherever you sent it is, that's where it went, and here's the proof of that. There are not a bunch of people sitting around like there was maybe 10 years ago. You would send something, and we were sending liens to District of Columbia, and we thought people were there receiving them, and some were saying, well, I called them and they told me that your liens was being put to the side in a big box. Well, there's no one there now. There's no one there to receive anything because we're the government. So when the real government is here and stands like as we are doing, there's no one. Why would they be there? What good are they there when we're the government here? We don't need a substitute. And that's what the public record does. The public record is saying, okay, this is what we've done, this is what we've done, this is what we've done. We never needed anyone to be on the other end receiving, because we're the government. We're a sovereign government at that, the sovereign government. And so with no one there to sign, because again, we didn't need their signatures for anything, just so that you all are aware. We never needed their signatures for anything. So for those who've authenticated, quote unquote, authenticated birth certificates and all that, we don't need their signature to authenticate anything, because they can't authenticate it. And the only reason they were signing in the first place is because the sovereigns told them to.
Where's your seall factory, Pauline?
It wasn't even a matter of whether or not they had the authority, because they never had it. It was us saying, sign this.
Where's your land over then?
The only reason that they even enacted authenticating a birth certificate or anything like that was because the sovereigns told them to do it. They knew that they didn't have any authority. Okay. There's a question in the chat. Is it fraud or indicating illegal or unlawful to use government stamp and have it sent back postage due? No, that's a hint from them that there's something going on either with what's in it or the process that you use. So whenever something is sent back saying postage due, look at the process. Look at what you put in there and see what your spirit says about what you put in there. Or look at the process, the mailing process, and see what you did. Your spirit will speak very loud and clear to you about what you should update or change or do. And it could say that if there's something in the packaging or the parcel that the ancestors will that you look at. It will say it will be sent back postage due. And of course we don't pay any fiat for anything. We just look at the process. That just means look at the process.
Islam members.
Islam mobility.
Thank you for that. I guess I was looking at protocols for government communications, and I saw where embossing an envelope is a part of some of those processes. So I was wondering, since this is
some Moors have decided to emboss their envelopes. We don't. We just send them plain and simple, and with the process that we put on a public record. But some feel it necessary to do that the ancestors may have told them based on the jurisdictional implications of where they are.
Right. Okay. Maybe a part of it. I don't know, but it's just this one area of our government that does that, just one.
And most likely it's because they're creating securities, or they're in a place where securities are created. New York, for example.
Okay. Okay.
But it could be any of the banking sectors. It could be any of the banking sectors that do that. It's not wrong to do it. In fact, if the ancestors have stated to do that, then do it. For us, the ancestors have told us to just keep it a simple process, because we're showing the process to everyone, and then everyone, according to what the Spirit tells them, will update it according to what their Spirit says.
Okay. I'll yield. But this particular sector just tears the envelope in one particular area, about a 1 or 2 inch tear. They never open it. And this is the first time I've gotten it back with postage due, I believe. So the only thing I thought about was I looked up some of the protocols of, international communication between governments, and that was the only thing I saw that may be. But and then again, my Spirit's telling me, no, that's not it either. But
yeah, I'm not getting that from the Spirit either. What I am hearing in the spirit realm about what you're sending is look again at the subject matter of what you're sending. There's something in the subject matter.
Okay.
If it's financial documents or something, look again at your process.
Actually, it's the arrest command.
Okay, and here's what we state about that. We can issue an arrest command, but the ancestors are moving people out of the way already without arrest commands. And more importantly, if you're sending an arrest command to someone that was previously doing business as provost marshal, is that where it's going?
Yes, it is.
And is that the subject in the office of provost marshal?
Yes. Okay. I've been using the same subject. I don't know if it's changed. I tried to find if there's been a change, maybe. But I didn't see change in the provost marshal subject.
Okay.
No.
Here's what I know about that. Without having seen your paperwork, I know this to be true. That whoever it is that you're stating should be arrested, the process is not complete in order for that to happen, because whoever that is, if they're an actor, they shouldn't be there anyway. But you can't send to another actor and call him a provost marshal when he's a subject in the office of provost marshal, because in reality you're the provost marshal. But in addition to that, whatever it is that you're sending an arrest command about, that process is not complete. There's still some other things that have to be done. For example, if it's an arrest command for someone who's occupying a domicile that you've claimed, look at the process of that you use to proclaim that domicile, and ensure that all the steps have been taken, and that you have utilities already populated, that you have the title, that you have the deed done, the trust deed done, and all of that, and that a proper exchange has been remitted onto the public record. A wire transfer has been remitted or placed on the public record. So that, because see, when we do the processes correctly, whoever it is, they just leave anyway, because we have a general arrest command on the public record anyway. Look again at your process, nobility, and fine tooth comb the process. That's our suggestion. Since we can't tell sovereigns what to do, we just suggest that you look at your process. They're going to keep doing that, because in reality, we never really had a need for a provost marshal. That's not us. We never really had a need for that when we do the processes properly. A provost marshal it actually should be a peace office instead of a war office. And in the past, they've been war offices. But when we demonstrate that office, which we've done, it's a peace office. So look again at the process. And that's a suggestion for everyone who, if you're sending things out and it's coming back with a little tear, and the tear is a sign. The tear is a sign. That's why we don't put staples in our paperwork, because our paperwork are ships, and we don't want holes in the ship. So what they're doing is saying that there's something going on with the process. So just take a look at the process, and then just, and your spirit will tell you how to navigate that.
Gratitude. I always thought it was a sign. I hadn't figured out what it is yet, but I always did think it was a sign. Yeah. Islam. Gratitude, Empress.
Islam. Yeah. It's in the process.
Islam,
Empress.
So with the postage due idea, is that coming from, or shall I say, are they opening packages in order to kind of know what's in there to say postage due? Now, I have, outside of this, so this is before I got here, and I've mailed a box going to, that I wanted to meet me going back home with my parents, and I wanted it to go ahead of me. So I drop it off at a FedEx location and notice that when I get the item that they opened it. Now, before I actually sent it off and everything, and I'm still at that desk, they're asking me what's in it, and I tell them personal items. They want to know exactly what's in there. So they opened it. And I know that they opened it. But this was not a postage due idea, though. So by the time I got to where it is, because it beat me getting there, then I noticed, they opened it. And it upset me for the fact that she needed to open it. She didn't trust me and me saying what was in it. So either I said it was personal items, or I told her some of the items that were in there, but not a lot of what she needed to know was in there, because in my opinion, that was none of your business. It's being sent through U.S. mail or whatever. So because it tells you what not to send, it already tells you what not to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I already did all of that, and to make sure that that was not what's going in there. But yet and still they opened it. So what's actually going on then? So on those two occasions then, with them just opening it after me stating what's in there, and you still got to open it, and then with the postage due, so how they're knowing that, okay, there's something other than documents, or it could be something else. I don't know. But how are they doing this? Or are they opening packages intentionally?
So,
now, yeah.
So, Empress and all Moors, you must know that every move you make, there's a spiritual component to it. Okay? So when you say to them, and I'll just use, since Empress Imani said what she said about how that interaction took place, I'll use that as an example. Empress Imani, when you told them a few things, but you had the energy of the rest of that stuff is none of your business. They sense that energy, and they say, it is our business. We're going to open it.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Because see, and again, this was before you knew who you were. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
That is correct.
They know that they're energetic beings also, so they know when something is they know what's not being said by the energy of what is being said. Okay. Empress Chris put something in the chat that we know to be truth also, because we know what a matrix is. She put in the chat, she said they see everything without opening. She's talking about the ancestral energies. Our ancestors see when we put it on the screen to type it up to get ready to mail it out. They see it already. They already know what it is. So it's not a matter of hiding anything in the documentation. It's a matter of improving the processes that we use to do things. Every thought that we have is known by our ancient ancestral energies who put this whole thing together. It's kind of like when you're speaking to someone and you know that they're lying to you, but you don't say anything, but you know in your spirit they're lying to you. And they could be laughing and whatever, you just know that they're lying to you, and then ultimately you see that, yeah, I knew that was a lie when I heard it. It's like that. That's part of this whole system. It's a matrix system that registers or records energies, frequencies, vibrations, metaphysical metrics, because there are metaphysical metrics. The system is a meter, and we spell meter M-I-T-R-E. M-I-T-R-E. That word means mother. It means mother. It means female bishop. M-I-T-R-E. The whole system. There's nothing hidden in the system. So
now that you say it, the way that you're saying it, these are scriptures in the Biblios.
Yes. We are in that time, at that time, where that time has manifested.
Right. It's already there.
And we are judging ourselves. No one else has the authority to judge us. We judge ourselves. Right. This is judgment time.
Right. So one last question.
Okay. And then the matrix assists us in doing that.
Wow.
We're very powerful. Go ahead, Empress.
Oh, I mean, when I think about what you're saying and what the Biblio says, just how powerful we really are.
Is it not written in your laws that ye are God?
It's like, is it not registering yet? Come on now. And so here's the other question. So when it comes back like that to say postage needed, and we're not paying anything in fiat. So are we to recall that back to us? Because say, for example, we send it to someone else and it's saying postage due. Do we need to tell them, okay, what's the word I'm trying to say here? Or refuse the package and let it come back, or what's going on with that, so that we can correct that process and then send it again?
Who are you speaking to when you say, oh, it's showing postage due? Is it something that you received in your hand that says postage due, or are you looking online and it says postage due?
No, someone shared that with me, that I sent an item to them and they said that they had to pay something because it was postage due.
No, they don't have to do any of that. They don't have to pay anything.
Oh, really?
Now, who was it? Another sovereign, or was it a supposedly a company.
No, it was a sleeping Moor.
Okay. So that was actually a wire transfer.
Mm-hmm.
That means something changed status-wise. But again, you can do that. You can send things to sleeping Moors using the government process. You just have to properly identify them as a subject, because that's who they are. Just put subject and then their name.
Okay.
And that might offend some, but got to declare your nationality.
Okay, I have to double check that one because I wasn't quite sure how I stated them per se. So I just have to check and see what did I do. But that's what.
Whoever you're sending anything to, you have to give them a title.
Got it. Okay.
Because when you give them their name a title, that title, whether it be subject or whether it be another Chief Justice, that title is going to then ensure that what you're sending is being sent in the same jurisdiction that you're at and not going outside of that jurisdiction into a dead place. So if I sent something to one of my kin and they're not doing anything, they're not declaring nationality or anything, and I send something to them and they don't know anything about nationality, and I put a 2-letter state, it's going to come back saying postage due, because I've gone outside of our jurisdiction and into a dead 2-letter state hell, basically. A place that doesn't even exist, really. And so the system knows that about us, that we have the living land that we speak on. And the system will say, okay, no, this one can't go because it's trying to go outside of the living land.
So here's
a dead space.
So here's what I did. I spelled out the city and the state, but then I added a zip code, and that's probably. I was
about to say you had to have added a zip code because that would be the inclination.
Yes. Okay, I see now.
And see, our system knows that that's not how we mail things. You would be surprised. Our system knows when we put it on the public record that this is the way we're going to do it, our system says, okay. And if someone tries to do it a different way, the system says, that's not what the Moor said. It has to go the way Congress said it's going to go. Our system knows. Everything. That's why it's so important, the things that we're placing on the public record. Because as we stated, the systems are saying, God has said this, God has created this, and all of the universe's energies come together and conspire or inspire to make it happen. It happens like that. See, some people don't believe the things that come out of their own mouths, but we do. Some people will say they're the heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce, and cower out when it comes time to demonstrate that. We know that what we state is the law. Okay, we know that what we state is the law, and guess what? No nefarious energy can go beyond our word. It'll never happen. Never has, never will. So we don't even worry about it. We just state the law and demonstrate and be ourselves on our land.
I apologize. Did you answer how we would move forward with the postage due idea. So are we going to, we can always make the assumption that it came back to us to say postage due. So if it comes back to us like that, we know exactly what to do, which is to redo everything, find out what you did, and do it right.
Just review it. Yeah, review it and look through and see, and your spirit will tell you. If someone on the other end receiving it, again, Empress, you sent it to outside of the United States.
Yes.
Really?
Right, exactly. Okay.
And so even in that case, that's still not an excuse to use fiat to affirm fraud.
Correct.
Because fiat is fraud. So that's just saying do it properly. Again, the same thing that I told that I mentioned with Justice Harold. Just look at your process again. Postage due just means look at the process that you're using, either to mail it or whatever is in there. We have no need to send warrants, arrest commands. When we do the process right, they're out of there anyway. We see that. So look at the process and then add to it, perfect it even more, give it some more study. That's what postage due means. Because they already know, obviously, we're not going to pay fiat.
Right.
So then it has to mean look at the process or look at what you put in there. And in fact, I got something back recently that I sent out, I don't know how long ago. When did I send this out? I sent this out, let's see here. Back in, what is this? This is October. This was sent out in June. And it came back in one of these. It says return to sender postage due, but I know why. I had to look at the process, and when I looked at the process, I saw where I could improve this process, that it needs to be fixed. It needs to be updated. And it's all because I had one number where I put a number, I circled a number and changed it in writing. And my documentation should be, from our perspective and from what we do, our documentation should be perfect. I shouldn't have, circled that thing because I felt like I'm just not going to type this again. I'm not going to type it again. But I ended up typing it again anyway. Because that's what I usually do, and the system gets used to you doing things a certain way, then it's going to say, okay, well, and yes, the system knows what you put in there. Whether they open the envelope or not, they know what's in there. This one happened to be open. So someone looked at it, they reviewed it, and when they saw that instead of retyping it or correcting the number by typing it, that I circled the number and I changed it. Because in corporate arena, if you willed to make a change, sometimes you could circle something, put a line through it, write the proper thing, what it should be, and then initial it. And that's what I did here. But even at the time, I knew that something said you probably should retype that, because I don't even do things like this normally. But the system knows, so it came back.
I'd like to go back to, you were about to make a statement. Well, no, you actually made the statement, but I need clarity on it. which is about the arrest command. So you say, because kind of like where I am, so then I necessarily don't need to do an arrest command.
You can do one if your spirit says to do an arrest command, because we must know how to do them.
Okay.
The system, the way this whole thing works is that those who were acting as if they had some authority, they will move when we complete the process of removing them. Which is what you're seeing, like what you talked about earlier, where you get the green thing back and it doesn't have a signature on it. It's because whoever is there was removed. They've been removed. Whoever was acting there is removed. So there's no one there to sign.
Islam, I think that answers my question there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Islam. I yield.
Islam.
Yes, Islam.
You was going over whether or not you was going over relating to mailing, but I can see it. Islam, and I yield.
Say that again, Justice.
You was explaining about something that you mailed off months ago. Can you put it on a monitor or screen so that I can see it? So that's okay. I mean, if you don't want to, that's fine.
No, it's not a matter of whether I will to or not. It's a matter of I've not scanned it in. So I would have to scan it in.
Okay.
I would have to scan it. But I had to correct my math because instead of saying 200 million, I said 2 billion. And so I just put a line through it.
Okay.
Yes, but see, no one in government, if someone from that was previously enacting a government office sent you something with something lined out and, wrote in, you would just think, oh, they're not very professional.
Okay, I got you. I yield.
Yeah. And we are used to doing things and making it look really good. And I did not do that with this document. And it had a math error that I corrected on there. And so it came back. And it said postage due, return to sender postage due. And of course, we don't pay postage on these types of documents. So, we just look at the process, and sure enough, we found out what the issue was. So that's all. When it says postage due, look at your process and see what you did, and your spirit will tell you this could have been done a little better, or do this differently, or make this change, or add this, or take this out, capitalize this, uncapitalize that, whatever the case may be. Okay. Postage due means look at the process. Islam, Empress.
Empress and Justice Cynthia Ann Bay here. I just wanted to reply to your original question. Here at the office of Justice Cynthia Ann Bay, we have done a wire transmitted Dollarium through our Moorish American mailing system. Just want to put that on the public record. Islam.
Yes, Empress. And you know what? The answer to that for all of us is yes. Because that's how we send Dollarium out, either by email, which is a wire transfer also, or a wire exchange also, and wire remittance. So I willed that we look at the word remit as well. But let's continue with this, the word telegraph, telegram, and wire. Fire alarm.
Yes, Islam. Can you share your screen, because you're not sharing your screen?
I'm not. Let's get that done for sure. Thank you.
And as you was going back to our original, objective for this meeting, I was just looking up the tell and for breaking down graph because we had spoke about this earlier. And I said graph is or gram for telegram. Gram is a measure of weight. And then tell is communicate information, fact, or news to someone in spoken or written words. So telegram is the communication of, facts by measurement then, when you break down the word telegram.
Yes. And graph means to write.
Yes.
From the Latin word graphene, or graphine, depending on how you pronounce it. It just means to write.
Oh, but wait. Graph is also a math term and a science term, and it's also grafted. I think of the phrase in the the old school, not old school, but the past era, grafted in. And so that would also be a term used in farming. You can graft in something from one plant to the next.
Yes, and when you talk about grafting in the Biblios, it talks about a nation being grafted in. That just means they wrote themselves in. A birth certificate can graft you in depending on where it comes from. And see, we didn't want to be grafted into the fraud, so we created our own birth certificates and birth affidavits.
Yeah.
Because they were attempting to graft us into a dead U.S. and then pretend to be the sovereigns when we're standing here, right here on the land. Fire alarm telegraph, the apparatus. Now, didn't our prophet Noble Jure Allah say that when the trouble comes, that we were going to be lifted above the trouble, high above the trouble, by zeppelins and apparatus?
Yes.
That's in the hadiths. The prophet Noble Jure Allah knew. So the apparatus necessary to send in alarms to a central station or to a fire engine, to the fire engine houses in a district from call boxes or from fire alarm contacts working automatically. The one that was mentioned earlier is Morse code. It says Morse telegraph. Any system, whether that be a writing system, whether it be a tapping system, whether it be dots and dashes, whether it be ones and zeros in a computer, any system of telegraphy employing the Morse alphabet. The Morse alphabet. Just know that you know where that came from. It's M-O-O-R-S, alphabet. Yes, we have many alphabets. All alphabets originated with us. Space telegraph, same as wireless telegraph. Why is that important? Because people keep talking about space and they keep looking up there, but they forget about the space around their head. Okay? So wireless telegraph, just like wireless cellular phones, etc., is a space apparatus. Now, the word telegraph, we just looked at the word telegram. We looked at? Yes, we were looking at the word telegraph. Now let's look at, is it on the screen? Yeah. Let's look at telegraph as a verb transitive. To convey or communicate a message by telegraph. And here it says to send a telegram to. There's the word telegram right there. To send a message by telegraph. Now, this right here is the most important. This verb intensive here, it says to signal by any means, whether it be you signaling by your hand, signaling by winking your eye, signaling by sending something in the mail, signaling using sign language, putting flags at the top of your documentation. That's a signal. To signal by any means. So we have been wiring money the whole time. We've been wiring money the whole time. We just didn't realize that we were wiring money the whole time. To signal by any means. And then telegram is here, but let's look at the word telegony. The supposed transmission of hereditary characteristics of one sire to offspring subsequently born to other sires by the same female. See, somebody knows that it's about the matriarch and what she's doing and what she's transmitting to her heirs. Yes? Okay. Hereditary characteristics. Telegram. Gramma means writing. Graph also means writing. A telegraphic message or dispatch. So we've been wiring money the whole time. What does this mean? This means that when you send Dollarium with an affidavit and a company document, that means that you've already wired the funds. Let's say, for example, someone is there is a lease agreement for a place, and you restate the lease, and you send Dollarium and a fiduciary document and a restated lease. Well, isn't that a wire transfer or a wire remittance of the money? So you've got the numbers, you got the return receipt numbers, you've got the tracking number. That's the account that the money came from, because you are the post office. So now, Morse, all the money that you sent out for things like conveyances and things of that nature, now it's time to look at that process and see what's been done. Look at the process and see what's been done. That's why it's important to keep records, keep track of what you've done. Now, can someone look up the word remit? Remit. Look up the word remit. And I'm pretty sure that I already looked this up. Islam, Empress.
So in Black's Law Dictionary, to remit, to send or transmit, as to remit money, to send back, as to remit a check, to give up, to annul, to relinquish, as to remit a fine. All right, that's it in Black's Law Dictionary.
That's why I like to use an 1828 Webster's Unabridged Dictionary. Someone put it in the chat also. Look at what was placed in the chat. Let's see if we can.
Now, I can't see because I'm on the phone, so if you could read that out loud, please.
Yes, I'm going to see if I can get it on the screen. Let me just copy it.
Oh, if I may, Islam, while you're doing that, I have the word remit comes from the Latin word mittere, which means let go or to send.
Mittere.
So in the chat,
to forgive and to pardon.
Yes,
Islam.
yes. Yes.
Islam.
Yes, Empress. That's so good.
So
good.
If I may, mittere, which Empress Angel just mentioned, I had to do Latin. That was my favorite verb. Mitomitis, mitime, mitimus, mititis, mitunt, mittere, to send. But to let go, when you let go of something, is to forgive it, to release it, to...
Yes.
And in fact, from a spiritual perspective, that to let go, in terms of ascension and release, to let go is to actually allow oneself freedom and liberty.
Yes.
And so there you go. That comes back to that whole forgiveness is not for the other, but for self. And then also, I look at this, and you mentioned the Zeppelin, as in the balloon, basically.
Yes.
When you let go of the tie down, you then ascend, because you're released into space, into the air, and you rise.
Yes. Yes.
I yield. Because mittere is the root of remittance, any of those transmit, mittere, to send, to let go, to release, is the root. Yes, I yield.
So yes, Empress. So now let me just add clarification to what we're stating here. I did the study on the difference between to tender payment or to remit payment. I did the study on that. And it is clear to me that we should be remitting payment and instead of tendering. Now, tender is that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, because it was in the draft of the Constitution. But now that we know what we know about our financial system, we have the authority to state how that system works. To tender payment is not the same as remitting payment. So let's take a look at that. Because when you tender payment, RST,
Islam,
nobility.
This is a very interesting subject because once I spoke to you, I wanted to speak to you privately about this legacy account. I got a reply from Legacy not too long ago, email reply, a legacy account. It says executive communications coming from the CEO. It says, good afternoon. Your email was received in USAA's office of the CEO. We would like to conduct research based on your concern, but we're unable to identify your membership. Would you be able to provide a member number or identifying information so that we may proceed with our research process? Please feel free to reply this email address with any questions or you may have. If you prefer, you may contact us by phone, right? And then it has a person. I send it to the gentleman, but this is still the CEO office. It was Jacqueline, office of the CEO. And I was wondering, how do I respond to this? I know I was trying to get the account open.
So the answer to how you should respond to that is this. Do not respond until you know who the real CEO is. That's the answer. That's the answer. Islam. So tender and tend. See, that word, it needed to be more precise because, as you know, common or corporate or dead English is not a precise language, if a language at all. That's why we use ancient English, because it's more precise. Tender is an offer of money, but someone has to accept the offer. And we're the only ones qualified to both offer and accept money, because we're the only ones who have real money. It says the act by which one produces and offers to a person holding a claim or demand against him the amount of money which he considers and admits to be due in satisfaction of such claim or demand without any stipulation or condition. We are not obligated to anyone where money is concerned. So the word tender is not the right word, and we had to correct that in the Constitution that we have written, and that's why it's so important for us to write our own constitutions and everything, is because we must correct those words. So we don't tender payment because that's an offering. We have to wait for somebody to accept it, because it says gold and silver in tender of payment of debts. No, we don't tender it. We remit. So when we go back to the word remit, and I don't know, I'm not sure if it's in Black's law. Let's see, but I definitely have it in. Let's take a look and see if it's here, which we are. It may or may not be here. No. Okay, here it is. Remit. To send or transmit as to remit money. To send back as to remit a check. To give up, to annul, to relinquish as to remit a fine. Well, if you're giving up a fine or annulling a fine or relinquishing a fine, that means that you're saying that fine is no good by what you remit. Remittance, money sent by one person to another, either in specie, bill of exchange, check, or otherwise. Remitter, the relation back of a later defective title to an earlier valid title. We're definitely doing that. Remitter occurs when he who has the true property or just proprietatis in lands, but is out of possession thereof, which we're not. So we'll tailor this to our will. It says, and has no right to enter without recovering possession in an action, has afterwards the freehold cast upon him by some subsequent and, of course, defective title. In this case, he is remitted or sent back by operation of law to his ancient and more certain title. So, in other words, when we remit payment in legal and lawful money, then that means that's what we're really doing, is we're saying, this is mine according to our ancient and lawful and legal title, and not some modern corporate corpse title that's not a real title, right? So now in the Biblios, in the Bible, this right here hit my truth center when I looked and thought about the remission of sins. And when the Biblios talks about how debt is to be taken care of, we don't have debt, so we forgive the debt of the debtors as we remit the accounting mechanism in order to proclaim and possess. Because we have to have, it is competent to have a way to give an account for the things that we possess. So when we remit, we are bringing back into our custody that which is ours and doing away with annulling or relinquishing debt back to where it came from. And I wouldn't say even debt, it's credit, because we're using real money. So remit is the proper word for what we've been doing. We've been doing wire remittances for conveyances, domiciles, and the like, but we had to know that that's what we're doing. And then state that.
Islam. So, access device. Would that be also part of this as well from our previous conversation and the study that was done? So access device means a card, code, or other means of access in a state to a consumer's account or any combination thereof that may be used by the consumer to emit electronic funds transfer. And though consumer in the definition as they define it is a natural person, just for the record. So even with that stated, the definitions are being properly defined for living versus dead as we continue on being ourselves. So
go ahead, Empress.
No, I was just gonna say I was reading this from the website of what is it? The Consumer Bureau something. Let me see if I can get it. The Consumer Financial Protections Bureau website in study.
So I am hesitant and I do not consider myself a consumer.
No, I know that part. Yes,
because we produce so much. I'm looking for the word connoisseur.
Islam,
Empress.
While you're looking up what you're looking up, but I just want to say, in consumer, the definition in Black's Law Dictionary is one who uses economic goods and so diminishes or destroys their utilities, opposed to producer.
We produce so much that it's
we cannot be consumers. Not in our
be consumers. We would be the more appropriate word for us would be connoisseurs.
Yeah.
Meaning specialists at choosing products that we use. But we're certainly, I would not say consumer, just because.
No.
And Empress Angel, we know you know this, but I'm speaking this for the sake of those listening. Connoisseur is a better word for us.
Yeah. Well, I was, like I said, I was just going based on this study that this brother was going over in this video, and so in number 2 it says an access device becomes an accepted access device when the consumer requests and receives or signs or uses, in parentheses, or authorizes another to use, close parentheses, the access device or transfer money between accounts to obtain money, property, or services. So in my study I found that, after looking up access device and then going deeper into that, I was like, this has this is interesting. And then Justice Nathaniel, he went and did some study himself also, and what is it? It was the word fungible, and it came up in a definition that he was reading. Let me see. He went up, and so interesting. Let me just go and read. So, and he was in Cornell Law's website, and negotiable instruments and check. It says a promise or order or other than a check is not an instrument if at the time it's issued or first comes into possession of a holder, it contains a conspicuous statement, however, expressed to the effect that the promisee or order is not negotiable or is not an instrument governed by this article. So I'm trying to figure out at what point did he come up with the word that I just stated earlier.
Okay, so while you're looking through that, the word connoisseur is on the screen. It is an expert judge in matters of taste. An authority, okay, or an expert judge. So again, as we're talking about remittance for conveyances, domiciles, whatever else is out there, anything that we restate, we can wire the money through the post office, and that is fungibility. That is proper remittance.
Islam,
Empress.
I have a quick question on that, on remittance. Are we able to remit on behalf of someone or a family member?
If you've restated the contracts and things, placing yourself as the proper authority, that is a demonstration that I would encourage you to do, and then let us know what happens.
Ooh.
Because again, as long as they're in their proper status, whatever it may be, if they don't know that they're the living, that's going to mean that they accept the title of subject.
Right.
Even if there are brothers, sisters, husbands, or consorts and heirs and all of that. If they don't know who they are, then things have to be done from from who they say they are.
Right.
And it actually has to be done for who we know they are, not who they say they are, because they'll say they're black.
Right. Right.
When we know they're not. So really the question is, can we provide remedy on behalf of, and not even on behalf because that's not the right word, can we provide remedy for subjects? That's really
okay.
What's happening. That's really the question.
And then when we receive,
here's the issue. The problem that we have with attempting to provide remedy for someone who doesn't know who they are is that we can provide the remedy, but it's only going to be temporary because the system is going to come back and ask them questions about what happened.
Okay.
And if they don't say the same thing that's on the paper about status and all of that, then it's all for naught, because they will talk themselves right back under submission.
But then that's if, let's see how to say this. So that's if on the paper or the restatement that somewhere I didn't exactly state that they are the subject. Right? Is that the only way that can happen? Because if I restate everything and state that they are the subject and I'm the authority, then it shouldn't come back like that, correct?
Well, again, it will. See, this is the problem with it. Whoever they are, they're going to be looking for proof that it was paid. They're going to be looking at a debtor system when you've already spoken to the creditor system. Okay. So they're not even going to see what you see.
Okay, got it.
They won't be able to see that it's already done. See, they'll continue to claim the debt when they're really the creditor. And that's why nationality is so important, and why everyone must confess their own.
Right.
Because and they have, listen, part of this process is that the debt is going to motivate them to declare who they really are.
Okay. And let's say, for example, this is for elderly people.
Yes.
And I would say, or shall I say, I think this is probably what may be the solution in that particular situation would be that when I'm the authority that is handling all of their affairs, then they would have to contact me to verify something that has been paid. Not that they're verifying it when they call them. They have to call me.
Okay. Now, that's further clarification. Really what you're saying is whoever it is, you're muting them, and that's proper when you're talking about people who don't know who they are.
Right.
That's what the quote-unquote lawyers and attorneys were doing, was saying, hey, be quiet because you don't know what you're talking about in here. So they have to be given specific instruction. The system, it's a system that you're speaking to in the first place. The system just looks at, is there a phone number on the account? Is there an address on the account? Okay, yes, there is. However, it would be wise to tell the system, do not speak unless you do it in writing to this place, this address, and this authority.
Oh, okay.
In that case, yes, you can do that.
Okay.
In that case, yes, you can. Why? Because they're 100% disabled and 100% minors.
Okay.
And we can indeed, and we must speak. And that's what we were stating at the beginning of this, is that there are some out there who are not competent enough to govern their own estate. We're already governing their estate until they're mature enough and of the age of, until they reach the age of majority, which could be 75 years old if they don't know who they are until they turn 75 and they realize they're Moors.
Well, in my case, on one of mine, they might end up being 100.
Okay.
So they're in the 90s.
I've heard of people waking up at that age and saying, I know who I am, and then demonstrating. So we never say never, because we know it's possible, because we know what the spirit can do when the spirit gets into when it wakes up within us, when the spirits wake up within us, when our ancient ancestral energies do that.
And you say when we remit payment, are you stating that these are the only two documents that we need, which is an affidavit and a fiduciary, or we need actually kind of like all of what we always send?
The contract by which they've been doing things is null and void, because see, now you're changing the status of the exchange. You're changing the status of the exchange. It's going from a fiat exchange to a real exchange. And so when you do that, you're now talking about property all the way around. So the contracts must be restated.
Okay.
The contract by which that thing was obtained must be restated.
Right.
Liens must be in place for everything. And it can all go on one lien.
Right.
Including the all caps names of those that don't know who they are. Because see, that's how we're progressing and making things happen anyway, is everything moving in all capital letters that we didn't write is being liened. So it mutes them.
Oh, so we're leaning them.
We're leaning the all caps corpse.
Got it. Okay. Oh, got it. Okay.
We're leaning the all caps corpse created by frauds attempting to push debt off on them.
Okay.
And once all of that is done, lien, levy, and bond, because you got to levy the whatever the property is, you have to levy it to you. That levy is a possession financial process. And it's just 2 or 3 pages. A levy is 2 or 3 pages. And then the bond, and that means you're not letting that property float out to sea. You're bonding it and mooring it to the land.
Okay.
Then you can remit the payment, and the money that you use to remit the payment comes from the bond. The bond is a product of the Treasury. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is how we do it. And then we state that we're remitting it. And then, as a finality, let's say if it was Fannie Mae Mortgage Company, we have to literally accept our own payment that we sent. We have to be Fannie Mae and accept it, because the other thing is it's liened, so it can't do anything. And when you send all of that and notify the subjects in the office of Fannie Mae, then it's a valid exchange. And then you've spoken to the system, and the system accepts the payment. Because in reality, that's what they were doing in the previous era, because the Moors were asleep. They were making a payment, like let's say Donald Trump, the actor, making a payment on a $65 million building, quote unquote. He would make a mortgage payment, and then his buddy would accept the mortgage payment by paper, on a piece of paper. He would remit payment, and they would accept it. He would get his buddy to accept it. And when his buddy at Bank of America, quote unquote, accepted it, then they would say, oh, Donald Trump just bought this new building and he's going to turn it into this, that, and the third. They were accepting their own stuff because the Moors were asleep. So they were enacting, accepting. And then he would get his other buddy, Rudy Giuliani, to enact being the lawyer for this exchange. That's how the wealthy people do things. That's how wealthy people do things. And because we're wealthy, that's how we must do it. Because there's no one who has the authority to even issue or accept those funds, real money. Real money must come from and go to real people and a real system. That's what sovereign means. Sovereign states, all they're doing is issuing money in a circle. That's all we do, is issue money in a circle. And we make sure that circle cannot be ruptured by frauds. When we're accepting and receiving and sending our own money to our own companies, Empress Shasha did a beautiful video yesterday. She put up an awesome video yesterday listing the 200 and something companies from the Moroccan American Exchange that we did 2 or 3 years ago. She put that list of companies up on her YouTube page, and I would encourage everyone to go look at it. In fact, maybe I'll put, if someone could go find the link to that and put it in the chat. Empress Angel, if you can find the link to Empress Shasha's video, where she just listed, it's about the 3rd or 4th video from the most recent videos. She put a couple of court actions ahead of that, but it's about 3 or 4 videos, and where she just listed all the companies from the Moroccan American Exchange. That's going to be important because, again, we're already doing company business with utilities and things of that nature. And the remittance of payment, let me tell you what that is. You know, the $666 trillion that we put on the public record, all we're doing is remitting the money back to that. Okay? All we're doing is remitting the money back to that. It's basically a cycle, a money cycle. So the best way to demonstrate that is to do it with what we're doing right now. Islam. Yes, indeed. It's very beautiful. When I saw it yesterday, I got so excited because everything is making sense. It's continuing to make sense about why we've done the things we've done, what was coming, because see, no one saw, but our ancestors knew what was coming. Empress Shasha put the video.
I just put it in.
Okay. Well, just a moment. Let me just see what that is then. Let me see. Just a moment. Yes, indeed. Because as I was watching Empress Shasha's video and her listing all of those companies, I realized yet again, we knew this was going to happen, but we're grateful to see it manifest. I'm realizing that all of the companies on the list, the actors are going away. So whenever they talk about banks closing, they're not talking to us because we have the list of banks and we're open. We're open for business, for commerce. So it's just like it was in 1971 when they were enacting, oh, there's no more gold standard, you can't exchange dollars for gold. That doesn't have, they weren't talking to us. That doesn't have anything to do with us and our financial system. We have our financial system and we can do whatever we will with it. And so as they're closing their acting company and their enactment, our banks are opening and and have been open because that list is an ancient list. And we mentioned that back some years back when we stated the list and talked about why this list is important and what the Al-Moroccan American Exchange is all about. So the 666 trillion is what we're remitting the funds back to. I'm so glad we put it on the record when we did, because now all the liens, levies, bonds, and all of that comes from that. And if someone has done a lien and it's more than 666 trillion, just know that 1% of that will come from, or whatever percent we state will come, that lien will be honored up to that point of 1% of the lien's value, or a flat 50 million or something of that nature, or 10 million, or whatever the case may be. So the 666 trillion, and again, to let go, to send back, we're remitting the money back to the Treasury when we send it by way of the post office and keep track of all of that. Whoever receives it, because we've addressed the documentation properly, must accept it, because and they're going to accept it because we're the ones doing the accepting too. And then the system will honor that. Because whether it's rent, quote unquote, or mortgage, or anything like that that's restated, because we know mortgages and things like that are all, that's fraud. The duality of a mortgage is that it is a proper accounting mechanism. So we're looking at the system as a mechanism just to add up and see how much our estate is worth. Okay? So with that being stated, the 666 trillion is it's right on time. It's right on time. We did it years ago. Our ancestors said, okay, now that you've stated that this is on the record and you even stated what it's for, go ahead and build the system and then speak to the system and use that system to do as you will. So we've done that. Liens, levies, bonds, treasury, all of that.
Islam,
Empress.
do we ever remit payment via email, or is this do we only remit via the U.S. mail?
We remit any way that we will to remit that is a competent way. Email is a competent way for remittance to happen because it's trackable.
Islam, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've demonstrated that before with one of the empresses who had she had quote unquote gotten a ticket. So we just did court actions between she and we copied the subjects in the office of some court, and it was accepted and the ticket was done away with by the system, because the system was showing that a payment had been made. Or she could have rebutted the ticket, which in my opinion, that was a rebuttal. And we showed that. We did the video on it, and we showed you the emails and all of that in a previous email of Congress on how that works. So Moors, you have more money. You have money for generations and generations and generations. And now you must competently use it, because remember, in the previous era, we were not taught how to use money. Money of any measure, there has to be documents that come with it. Money never goes by itself. They only had us enacting being agents where they would just give us some fiat and have us to just go spreading it around, when that's not how the wealthy people do it. Poor people do it that way. Wealthy people send the documentation and remit the payment. And there's no limit on how much we can remit when we're competent. You can remit payment for 10 trillion if you will, but it must be competently remitted. You can wire that money. Wire it.
Islam. So with that stated, that would then be by way of what we previously stated on the record when it comes to proper receipts and proper affidavits and sending the proper amount, the exact amount of Dollarium via the wire, which would be also the post office, which would also be the bank.
Yes.
All right.
So you see, we didn't have to go anywhere and open an account. We are the account.
All right. So then,
yeah.
Would our sovereign security number have to be a part of that process then?
It depends on the nature of the exchange. If you are led by your spirit to add that as a part of it, then by all means do so. It depends on the nature of the exchange. If it's an exchange that you would have done in your sleep using a social security number, then it probably should be a part of your restated process, your state security number, which is really an estate security number.
Correct. But then you would just state it as such. You would state that 9-digit number as an estate number.
Yes,
right?
With no dashes in it.
And then you would state remittance or remit when it comes to the sum.
Amount remitted.
Amount remitted, yeah.
And the fact that it's included in the paperwork is the actual wire remittance.
Islam. I have a quick question.
Islam, Empress.
So when we remit via U.S. mail.
Mm-hmm. We remit using United States Post Office.
United States Post Office. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So when we remit United States Post Office, is it customary for us to send physical Dollarium, or it just depends on what we're doing and how we're doing it?
If you're stating that you're remitting payment, how else would you send a payment?
So if I'm going through U.S. Post Office, then I think I would put something, well, depending on what I'm doing. So I would put something physical in there, or I would restate an invoice, and the invoice would state that the amount is being remitted. And I'm not sending Dollarium with it.
How would you, but where would it be coming from then? If you don't send Dollarium, where would the money be coming from?
It would be coming from the 666 trillion.
Okay.
So then I would put that in there, and probably some other documents, but that would be in there because they got to see where it's coming from.
That sounds legal and lawful to me.
No, I yield.
Yeah. Or more, and keep this in mind as an option. You can rebut a payment, but if it's if it's something that you have or will to have, then because see, we're looking at this from both sides. One side of it is, how do we rebut the debt that they were trying to put on people? So we know how to do that. The other side of it is, how do we then, now that we know how to rebut the debt, how do we now acquire or possess the things that rightfully belong to us? So
that would be the lien, levy, and bond process, correct?
Lien, levy, bond, remit payment, however you remit the payment, and title, recordation, not registration, but recordation. Yeah.
Where's Aisha?
Same thing for everybody, actually.
Where?
Just a moment. We do things the way wealthy people have been doing things. Okay. So how have wealthy people been doing things? The same way we're talking about right now. We're the 1%. So this is how we do things. And there's nothing that is outside of our reach. Nothing. Yes. Justice Johnny says, spiritual transition and transition of wealth is a divine decree which will manifest as we do what we do. Indeed. Indeed. This is the remittance for wealth, the reversion of the state. This is they were calling it the RV, which is really reversion of the state. They were calling it Nasara and Jessara, whatever, all of that. This is the reparations and all of that. We repair ourselves. And this is how it is done. Not everyone is capable of absorbing these precepts and processes, but everyone who can hear me is capable and able to do it. And when I say can hear me, I mean if they listen to this video 20 years from now, they're capable and able. But we are the ones who are opening the door and the access that no man can shut. That's biblical. There's no such thing as reparations for blacks. Doesn't exist. Blacks get enslavement because of the improper status, incompetent status. It just is. And listen, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. If the status is not right, you're black.
Islam. Here's my next question. So if we are going to acquire conveyances, what's the process should it be that we put petroleum into the vehicle? How are we going to do that?
That's a great question, and that's why conveyances have not just been flowing all out to people. The answer to that question is lien, levy, and bond the gas dispensary, same way you would do a grocery store or anything else. Call it what it really is. State that everyone is subjects in the office of. So lien, levy, bond. And then you must look at the corporate policy by which they were issuing the gas. BP, whatever it is, we wouldn't even use the word, the initials BP. It's British Petroleum. And we would be British Petroleum and also be the ones issuing it. And then as individuals, and individual is not the right word, as private people, we would create the process by which we use Dollarium or fiduciary money or merchant cards to get the gas. That's how it's done. So you're doing both sides of the exchange. You must look at the policy and restate the policy by which whoever it is that was pretending to dispense and distribute whatever it is, gas, groceries, whatever it is, office products, whatever. And then as you, just like with our Verizon demonstration that we did, we restated the process by which it's acquired. And then you let them know that you're going to be using whatever instruments you're going to be using to get that tributed to you. And then demonstrate what you've shown. Lien, levy, bond, and then restate the process, and then use Dollarium or fiduciary money to access whatever it is. Is it work? Yes, it's work, but those are our resources. So
what I'm saying is the process to acquire anything is the three necessary things. lien, levy, bond. That's the process. First thing you need to do is lien, levy, bond, and of course involved in that process is to now do the research, restate whatever you need to restate, and move forward. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, must be done.
Yeah. And again, the whatever method by which that resource is tributed, we have to restate that and then put in gold, silver, and Moorish sovereign Dollarium there and say that that is how that is tributed. And then demonstrate it. And that's before we go and get all of the things that we get. So that should be done. If you're willing to get if it is your will to have a new conveyance, a new automobile, a new vehicle or motor carriage or whatever you will for it to be, if it's your will to do that, all of this stuff has to be done before you access that. We're seeing it with, and you must have your federal driver's license and your nationality identification, those things, and state the insurance. It's all of that paper that they were doing, we had to rebut that stuff. Ours can be shorter, but we still have to do it.
For clarity's sake, I think it would be the same when we acquire a domicile and you want to be able to heat the home, have electricity,
yes,
and all of that. So then you're still going to have to do the same process, which is you got to go and get these policies, whatever it is that they have, restate those, lien, levy, and bond, that company, and just go through the entire process again, whatever it is that you have to do, and set your process on how you're going to remit your payments.
Yes, and then publish what you've done.
Exactly. Islam. I yield.
That is what government is. That is how government is done. Properly, competently, and successfully and repeatably. I pulled something up on the screen. The average company spends 3% of its revenue on paper. This includes filing, printing, and storing all kinds of documents. If your company revenue is $5 million, you're spending approximately $150,000 per year on paper. So it's a lot of paper. Do we have to spend that? No, we don't have to do that. But we do have to use the paper, use whatever we have to free ourselves from the fiat system and remit back to our own treasury.
Islam, Empress Light?
Islam, Empress.
Can you unlock? I have to come out and come back in. Please, thank you.
Islam. So, Morris, listen, what I'm seeing.
Where's your Land Rover, Pauline?
Is that
where's your Land Rover?
Now, if I were to speak to that particular voice, which I'm not doing, I'm speaking to you all, I would state that I am my Land Rover.
Where's your sea salt factory?
I am all of that. I am the all. So I'll say this: as the years go by, and as the time goes by and the months go by, we're just settling in
I thought you were getting
to our we're settling in to our governing authority. We're just settling in to our governing stand. And then we're going back and revisiting, reviewing, and improving and perfecting things that we've already done. I can tell you that we have done everything that government does. We've either mentioned it, demonstrated it, written it, spoken it into being, and all of that. Now we're just going to do what Empress Shasha and I have been doing. When we did these videos, and let me just go to them really quickly because it's just so powerful. As we stated earlier, these videos, here, let's go to them really quickly. Just a moment. I'm going to put that. These videos where we began to just show that remittance has been given, remittance has been wired repeatedly, many different places and ways. What we were doing is establishing banking wire payments, proof and evidence thereof, and proof and evidence for remittance, and that remittance has been accepted without rebuttal in a manner so frequent, that means we did it so often, that it is officially ordinary customs and usage on our land to use dollarium and gold and silver to do whatever we do. We have, and I'm sure we're not purchasing just, and I'm thank you for this. In the chat, someone said, why would we continue purchasing what belongs to us? We're not purchasing. The word remit specifically is not about purchasing. It's about sending money back to the Treasury to give an account. We must give an account because our estate is quantifiable and measurable. We have to have metrics. How do you know how wealthy you are if you don't know how much everything is? How do you know what your estate is worth if there's no way to quantify it, to give an account for it? When you pass things to your heirs, or we pass things among each other, how do we keep track of that? We remit payment. That's how we keep track of it. We have no lack of money. So we're not purchasing things back and forth. We're actually remitting payment and giving account for it. We're great accountants. Allah is the best of all planners. We plan, and then we strategize, and then we execute the strategy. And then we keep great records. No court can say that it is a court unless it is a court for record. That's one thing about our courts and equity and status, is that we keep great records. Records is what makes a government a government. You can't point to to anything and say that's a government if you don't see records. Records is how we know who we are, aside from just knowing in the spirit realm and knowing from within us. Those were the right words because thank you for that question. Those were the right words because yes. So in the Biblios, and let me make sure that you and I are referring to the same. Just a moment, to the same scripture about the merchants crying. Those were not real merchants. That's the issue. That's the problem. They were calling themselves merchants, but they were using fake money, false money. Everything about them was fake and false. And they have no titles. They have no money, nothing to give, nothing to trade, nothing to exchange. And so, again, we are the merchants, and we're talking about doing a proper exchange on the public record so that our system so that we have records of how much our estate is worth as we continue acquiring things. Because guess what? In reality, we're doing this for our heirs just as much as we're doing it for ourselves. We're doing this for those that are coming generations from now. They must have a record of, yes, my great-grandmother had 4,757 acres on the east wing of her estate. And at the time that she got it, it was worth this much. And at the time that the exchange happened and she passed it to my grandmother, from my great-great-grandmother to my great-grandmother to my grandmother to my mother and then to me, the estate grew in value from $650 million to $930 million, or up to $1 billion, or whatever the case may be. We must have quantifiable metrics and records. The Library of Congress, quote unquote, was supposed to be that type of a thing. See, all systems do is record. Systems don't give you any value. They don't issue anything to you except what you've already put in there. That's what systems do. What you put in your body system is going to come out and manifest in one way or another. So a system is just going to record what you did and then give it back in a different form, and sometimes in the same form. So no, buying things and purchasing things was the hypothecation of a good accounting system. Everything is already ours. We're just putting an accounting system. We're activating an ancient accounting system that we've always had. It's just that as mature as the majority, we must know how to use and to state and to tribute our own systems. All governments, all countries, all nations have their own financial system. They all do. And we are that as well. And here's the thing, ours is more ancient than all others. We taught everybody else first, and then we went to sleep and said, okay, have they learned what we taught them? Let's wake up and see. And then we looked at what they did and said, okay, this is how we keep wealth for thousands of years and millions of years, and keep it from being enacted as being taken over, a coup d'etat, and all of that. That'll never happen. Didn't happen before. It was enacted, though. And so, you know, many of our parents, they might have made a little progress. You know, my parents My parents that literally worked miracles in the previous system to get things done. I just know that the Spirit was with them too, even though they were claiming to be Christians, you know, and there's nothing wrong with claiming to be a Christian. You just better do it with your eyes open and know what that means. Because, see, where we're going now, the Christians have taken a vow not to chase or pursue anything that even looks like our estate. They're already saying that things are going to get hard for them, and that they are not to, and many of them don't want to accept the system. So they've decided to take a vow of poverty. We just know that someone has to accept the massive wealth. Someone has to do it. And so we decided to do it because it's ours. It's always been ours. Always been ours. It's never been. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom?
Islam, I do have a question. So my question is, so when we do the, let's say for a grocery store, okay, so we do the lien, levy, and bond and all that, you know, that we stated before. So now it's time to either remit an invoice or remit payment, or are we gonna, well,
you set up the system. You set up the system on how it's going to work. You must do that.
Oh, okay.
How you remit payment, how payment is received, and again, I shouldn't even say how payment is received. What I should say is how the products are accounted for.
Got it.
Is what we're each and all setting up and stating, rather. Okay? Look here. Because we have been doing things the way we've been doing it for so many years, custom and usage is the law. Custom and usage refers to a practice or norm that is commonly accepted in a specific context, specific being species-oriented. It can also mean a habitual or usual practice that has become compulsory and has acquired the force of law. So if all of us do it, which we've been doing, using Dollarium, using fiduciary money, setting up the systems and things, it now has the force of law, or force for law, or force by law, because we're the law. So we don't have to wonder about whether it's going to be accepted or not. We're setting up the system whereby it moves. Okay? That just is what it is. It's a fact. Everyone knows that. That's not a secret. It just is what it is. No one is even prepared, or no one wills or wants to fight us about that, because it's not a fight. It's our estate. It's not a fight. We got great results with our Verizon demonstration. Great results. Great results with our Verizon demonstration. It took us a minute to get everything in place, but we did it one step at a time. One step at a time, we did it. So our ancestors know what they're doing through us, and just keep going. Any other questions, comments, wisdom? And Empress Imani, thank you for asking questions that others may or may not feel comfortable asking, but they may have the same question. I know that many others have those questions that you ask, and so we appreciate your boldness to ask them. It also is assisting us with thinking through the processes. So Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of that came from my background. I've worked a lot with project managers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you're speaking about the infrastructure, et cetera, and all of that, trying to find out, okay, how, you know, when I asked the question about the petroleum and all of that, when you answered, I knew exactly where I'm going now because of the work that I did. Yeah. So I know what's involved. You got to go, you know, Suncor is involved in this because, well, when I mentioned Suncor, that's Colorado. So Suncor is involved with some petroleum here. So then I've got to pull up that project, Suncor, and find out, okay, what did y'all come up with? What are you doing now? And all of this is a lot of research. So, and it's online. So a lot of what we have to do is online. You just got to research it, find out, okay, is this company still involved with this one? And what did they do? You know, this kind of thing. The whole report, everything is out there.
So I would shorten the research time by, for example, there's companies, Costco or BP or Chevron or whoever it is that is enacting dispensing gas.
Right.
I would just go to their website and see, or go to, you know, wherever it is that they're dispensing it from, go to the website and find out what their policy is on dispensing that.
Got it. Okay.
That resource.
Right.
So there's a for example, if it's Chevron, then I would Google what is the form to get a Chevron credit card, because that'll be one way that it's dispensed. And then just by looking at that, I'll be able to restate that so that it is acquired by.
Got it. Oh, yeah, that'll simplify quite a bit, as a matter of fact. If you're going to do it that way, which is to, you know, like what you just said. So pull up the application or whatever it is to acquire a credit card, restate that, get your credit card. Go get your gas.
No, not get the credit card. When you restate it, what you will to do is, instead of using a credit card to get it, everywhere that it says credit card, put gold, silver, and Moorish sovereign Dollarium.
Yes, that would be in the restatement, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just take a look at this. There's something in the chat that Justice Rashid put there. Justice Nathan put there.
Yes, I think a lot of that is, you can diminish a lot of the research by simply ending and starting with their application, I guess, if you want to call it an application, or what's another word I'm looking for here? I'm trying to go within. So an application or policy. So I think we can end and start right there, is to restate that. Once you restate that, then move forward with whatever it is that you're trying to acquire.
Okay. Empress, are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Why can't I hear her?
Can you hear me?
Islam, we can hear you. And Empress Light, are you trying to share your screen of payment? What Noble Nate put in the chat?
How come I can't hear?
Yes, I was referring to Empress Light. I don't think she can hear me. Can you hear me now? Something else happened then.
Islam?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we hear you.
We
Yes,
can hear
we
both
hear.
of you.
Okay. Okay. So did you hear the last of which I was expressing?
I did not.
Which is, we should start and end with either a policy or an application.
Yes, and restate.
Restate that. When we restate that, now move forward to provide whatever it is you're trying to provide or gain, and that'll shorten everything.
Yes.
Everything. Because normally their applications or their policy is not going to be that long.
Right. Right.
So we just go ahead and restate that. Once that's restated, now go ahead and do whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Such as lien, levy, bond, restate the policy, and then make sure that that the process from on both sides is completed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And to make sure that what's in there is how it's going to be remitted.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Like you said, either through the fiduciary, 666 trillion, or we're going to do Dollarium.
Dollarium and fiduciary money both are a part of the 666 trillion.
Then what am I saying then?
They both come from there. So anything that all of the bonds and everything is coming from that same treasury.
Exactly. So we could do that or remit payment. Even in remitting payment, you're going to state where it's coming from because it has to come from somewhere.
Yes, it has to come from the 666 trillion.
Okay.
It has to come from that because that's the treasury amount. And then
great, that's for clarity.
The bond that you create is going to be the mechanism that the bond number is generally the employee or employer identification number. That is the number that the bond is issued by, the restated number, so without the dashes. And then from that you're remitting payment back to the treasury for whatever it is, so that there's proper accounting for how much you use.
That's fine.
Because that's really what this is about. We have no shortage of money. We have no shortage of resources. This is a matter of, are you keeping track of how much you use so that there's no waste, of course, on our estate, but so that we know that there's no shortage either, ever.
Exactly.
No shortage ever. There never was a shortage. That was the hardest problem that the actors had, was to try and make us think that there's a shortage of something. That was the task. And now that we can see, we know that there's no such thing as shortage on our estate. None. So.
Islam, Empress.
Islam nobility.
Can you open the meeting?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
So with that being stated, Justice Nate put something about a payment on the screen. We don't spell payment this way. We have an E on the end of our payment. It says pleading when the defendant alleges that he has paid the debt. Yeah, this is coming from a debtor's perspective. We're not the debtor. And pay in Hebrew means peace. Peace. So So we're not speaking that English when we talk about a payment. We're talking about a mental peace. In other words, no stressing about money. So, yeah. And because we're the Phoenicians, we get to determine which language we're speaking. That's why ancient English is so valuable, because it's an intentions-based language. So when we say the word payment, we certainly do not mean debt. We mean proper accounting for our own sources and resources, and proper accounting on our vast estate, because competent ones give an account for the things that are done. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this Congress? Again, we've already established customs and usage for Dollarium and for fiduciary money.
Islam.
Islam nobility.
Empress, have you heard from Justice Noble Phoenix?
I have not in the last probably month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a while. I try to reach out to him by way of email, but no response. I'm thinking he might be going through a test, maybe.
It's possible.
Okay, all right. I yield.
Has anyone else heard from Justice Noble Phoenix? For Justice Sudden Solution L is seeking to know. So no one's responded. So I'm not aware of. The last that I heard from him, he was going to a convention, Moorish Science Temple of America convention.
Okay.
So the week before that convention was the last time that I heard his voice and was on a call with them. Islam. With that being stated, if there's nothing further from this amazing Congress, hear me, we've got everything we will to have to continue economically growing this vast estate. We have everything necessary to do so. Everything. So let's keep moving. I knew we would get to this point. Let's keep going. Islam. Peace and grand rising. Islam, Empress.
Yes, I do have a question. I finished the 40 documents. I haven't published them yet because I'm, reviewing them. But I do have this question. It's I'm looking at Empress Shasha's right now. It's got the file, and then it's got the date, and then it says Superior Court, blah, blah, blah. So where did that come from? And then under there, it's got King County. Do we go through on our documents and stamp this King County on here?
You can, or you can put the Constitution for the county that you're at on the public record and stamp it on there.
Okay. Now it's got the filing part. Do I make my own stamp like that I'm looking at?
Yes, you do.
Or it's filing it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Islam.
Empress, do you will us to send a certain amount of Dollariums every month, and do we do that after we list the 40 documents on the public record?
So the answer to that is this. From this point forward, anyone who sends the Dollarium donations every month, we would prefer that you mail them using our government mailing process every month. 300 Dollarium gold receipts to us for donation for the work that we do by mail, because the emails are so full. The ancestors had told us that our cup would be running over that way. So we're stating the answer to that is please mail it If you're going to send it, please mail it. It's not mandatory. It is a love gift to us for the work that we do. Islam.
That's after the 40
Thank you
documents.
for asking. And whenever you will to do it.
Okay, Islam.
Whenever you will.
Okay, Islam.
Islam. Any other questions, comments, wisdom? Islam. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs, and we'll see you again on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Islam.
Smiling, be your soul. Peace and love.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Gratitude, Moors, for my erudition.
Peace and love, Islam.
Love, peace, and success.
Peace and love, and thank you.
Yes.
Peace and love. Grand rising.
Islam.
Peace rising.
Thank you much.
Islam.
Harmony and love.
Islam.
Thank you all.
Islam. Islam. Peace and love to all.
Islam. Islam.